Hi everyone, a really warm welcome to my channel, Nelly the Narcissist. Thank you so much for joining today. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about a widespread misconception that people have at large in the world that know nothing about narcissistic abuse. And they have this idea that to have got enmeshed in a narcissistic relationship, you either have to be one of two things: weak or stupid. And I don't even think that this belief that's actually very damaging to survivors of narcissists is limited to those that haven't been through abuse. I also think that some survivors believe this even about themselves because they can't understand how could it happen to them, or how could they continue to allow it to happen. I do think that many people think this at one stage or another and can get really angry with themselves, and it's not helpful, but we all do it from time to time until we come to the realization that when we don't know about narcissists and we don't know about narcissistic abuse, then we really don't have the weapons to protect ourselves against it. And it can happen to anybody. And gender also comes into this equation, as I'm going to be sharing with you a comment that I received from a guy, a heterosexual guy, that inspired this podcast today. Because I believe that men that get brainwashed and entrained have a harder time with this concept of not being smart or strong enough, because masculinity plays a role and they judge themselves and they get judged by other men by masculine standards. And it's really nothing to do with gender or masculinity. As narcissistic abuse, it transgresses all areas of life, including the social and economic, as I'm going to highlight in this comment that I received in just a moment. And the subjects that I'm going to raise today are very, very important, I believe, to free ourselves and know that it doesn't matter who you are in life. Narcissistic abuse could happen to practically anybody. It's got nothing to do with your gender, how much money you earn, what status you have in life, and also the same for the narcissist. So let's get into this. And just before I do, if you appreciate my content, then please do like this video, share it, and comment your thoughts down below and let me know what you think. And if you're not subscribed, then please do consider subscribing. Thank you. So the comment that I received, it was on my video where I spoke about narcissistic relationships as dictatorships, where you're forced to enter this tyrannical regime and you're forced to do everything that the dictator, which is the narcissist, tells you to do. So you're completely controlled and dominated, and you're forced to become subordinate in the relationship. Now, a male director of a company who leads thousands of people commented on this last video that he found himself terrorized and controlled at home to such an extent that he was actually too scared to even go and spend time outside with his son, because he was too scared of the backlash that he would receive from his female covert narcissist partner. This woman had completely overpowered him, and he was actually too afraid to go against her. And he pointed out that her job in comparison to him was a kennel maid. So I guess he means cleaning out, dog areas. So he was making this point, he was offering comparison, and he was saying he was a leader and a successful and competent man, and she was just a cleaner. So socially, he had a more respectful position, more external power in the world, more money, more status than her. But at home, within their dynamic, she had made him completely powerless. And this is what they all do. And it doesn't matter. This person, whether it's a man or a female narcissist, it doesn't matter. They might have no job and be scrounging and parasiting off of you and everything that you provide financially, materially, and all else. And yet they're going to flip this dynamic around in which they make you feel like you owe them something, and that everything that you have together, which is actually yours, is the narcissist's, and they're allowing you to be part of that scene. And they convince you somehow that you are subordinate to them and they're the authority. So many outside people, they might look at this and they think, well, how are you letting such a person dominate you? Surely this shouldn't be possible. And surely this reflects that you must be weak or not very smart. You can hear the words ringing, come on, are you not man enough? You can see how this idea then of masculinity, it starts to play a really toxic role in an already dreadful situation. But you not being strong or smart enough is not true. And what I really want to say is that any person can find themselves the subject of narcissistic abuse, as we know. It doesn't mean that you're weak, and it really doesn't matter what job the narcissist has in the outside world. They could have, like I said, no job and be parasiting off of you. And they will still be the dictator, and they'll still be acting like the authority. They'll be acting like it's their house, their money. This is the grandiose self-entitlement. And there is that general frown in the outside world. I experienced it myself. I heard myself in my past situation, two men speaking in a condescending tone, talking about my situation, and they were basically in bewilderment and judgment, and they said to each other in front of me, without knowing that I was really listening, I don't know how some people manage to get themselves in these situations. And right then, I could have floored the pair of them. I was so angry because you don't see this coming. You don't know what's being done to you. You haven't got yourself into a situation. Now, I know that there's that cliche, it takes two to tango, and it usually does in most situations. But in this one, if you don't know what's happening, if you believe because you were sold an idea that you were in a relationship and it didn't turn into a relationship at all, but anyway, you believe you're in a relationship, the narcissist has had very different ideas. How has it taken two? The only two that's involved in this situation is between a victim and an abuser. Narcissistic abuse is certainly not your regular dysfunctional or toxic relationship situation. It's totally different. And when you don't know what you're in, you don't know what's been done to you. You don't know what's being done to you. You have no clue what a narcissist is, what a narcissistic relationship looks like. So you enter into the situation with a narcissist naively. You get brainwashed. You have your sense of truth and reality and identity completely dismantled and destroyed, as well as your connection with yourself. In my opinion, like Richard Grannon rightly said, you can't say yes to something and you can't give your consent if you don't know what you're actually consenting or saying yes to. You haven't consented to that relationship. You haven't consented to the abuse. What I also want to say is there is a sliding scale of narcissists and their severity, and towards the more malignant side, that's when they start to become more and more extreme and more dangerous. Malignant narcissists are tyrants. They are coercive controllers, and they're very cruel and sadistic. And the grounds for this in which anyone has been primed is by a false belief that the narcissist cares and loves you, and then they become more abusive and more controlling, and they keep you in a prisoner-like state. They succeeded by convincing you that it's for your own good, and they're the only ones, in fact, that actually truly cares about you. You know it's wrong somewhere deep down within you. It doesn't feel right in your body. You know, you feel like you're being held captive, but you still don't know how it happened, and you still feel like you can't break out. And this is what narcissistic abuse is, and this is why it's so sick and dangerous. You've had your whole brain tampered with, and you've been put basically asleep. I say you've been roofied for this to take place. You've been violated, and this is how evil it is. There are many people that watch my channel that were involved with malignant narcissists, and it's quite possible, to be honest with you, that the commenter of today's topic was with a narcopath. It sounds like it. So no matter man or woman, I keep on stressing there's no immunity for this. You have had to have had previous knowledge of narcissistic abuse and of coercive control, and most of us don't actually get that until after we've been through the hell and we start seeking answers. And if you've got out, then you're one of the lucky ones, because not everybody manages it and not everybody actually makes it through. And this is how serious it is. It's a matter of life or the other one. I said that anybody can be subjected to narcissistic abuse, and that's really true. But narcissists, you know, they need an entry point because they need to access your being, and they need you to basically allow that to happen. Some people will be more susceptible, will be more vulnerable to narcissistic abuse and psychopathic abuse, and that is people usually that have had some sort of wounding from childhood, either childhood trauma or isolation, emotional neglect, and usually those that have wounding around self-esteem and self-love. They're more susceptible to taking and accepting narcissistic abuse. But having that kind of childhood trauma or wounding that comes from an early age does not make anybody a weak person. Weakness has nothing to do with it. But even those that feel like they are enough, that don't need validation from external sources, but are incredibly kind and generous, are also not immune to falling prey to narcissists. This can happen to loads of different people, but narcissists, they need fuel. And so they pick partners that can supply them so they can drain them. Somebody that's very weak, in my opinion, just wouldn't have enough fuel in their supply tank for a narcissist. And so this is a huge misconception that those that fall prey to narcissists or narcopaths are weak. And what narcissists do, in fact, they will use all of the power from you as the host, and they'll parasite off of you and your power. Narcissists actually prefer strong partners. Why would they want somebody that's weak? Wounded, yes, but strong. And what narcissists actually do is they're going to use all of the power from you as a host, and they're going to parasite off of you. So they're going to use up your power. They're going to lure you into a honey trap, man or woman, doesn't matter. And they will discreetly begin their underhand process to drain you and all of your life force and all of your resources. And this is what empowers the narcissist. Without you, they don't have any power. They're using you for narcissistic supply and your generator. They're on your generator, and they will take your generator all the way down to zero to inflate themselves. And they'll take your energy source so low, all the way down, until you're broken and there's nothing left of you apart from an empty shell. And most people, they get out before this has happened to them, because we do have a survival instinct that gets activated most of the time. When the abuse becomes so severe and persistent, when it becomes clearer to see it for what it is and no, it's not normal. This isn't a normal person that you're dealing with. You realize how miserable your existence has become. Most people arrive at this point, and then they do all in their power to try to snap themselves out of this kind of spell that they seem to be under. No, you want to break out of this trance. And even though the psychology experts will have their reasons of how this actually comes to be through a psychological point of view, you kind of feel like, what is this kind of witchery? What has been done to you? Because it doesn't feel like it's just a psychological thing. It doesn't feel this way at all for many people, especially if you've dealt with a malignant narcissist. You feel like there is some kind of a supernatural hold upon you, and I actually believe that there is. It's some kind of a bewitchment, but not in a good way. It's like being bewitched by evil, and you fall prey to a predator that's laid their trap with the honey, like I said, and you've fallen into it. And at first you thought, oh, how lovely this is, and then you got stuck in it. And then you realize when you tried to get out that you couldn't. And it wasn't honey any longer. It was putrid, and it was toxic lava, and it was engulfing and drowning you. And anybody that falls prey in such a situation is in really big trouble. This is like a horror sci-fi film right here in real life. But remember, like I said, the power is in fact yours. It's not theirs. They use your power against you. They use your wounds to access you. It's their abuse of you and you thinking that you're powerless against them that feeds them so much power. And it's their abuse of you that breaks you down and dismantles and weakens you. They won your trust at the beginning in the idealization because they appeared as your best friend. They appeared to love you. When somebody likes you, when somebody's acting that way, our defenses come down. They dissolve your boundaries, and then they slowly, discreetly, covertly start their invasion and takeover of you on a mind, body, spirit level. It's everything. They consume you. And when they turn from the idealization, they suddenly start to become a different person, more and more abusive. You start to see the cruelty appear. You start to see their sadistic streak. You start to see the horror of this show unfold before your eyes. And unfortunately, you don't get to have the awareness until you're really deep in the thick of it. There's no way really to see it before unless you have the information, you know all about these type of relationships. But when you're ignorant, when you're naive, you won't see it until you're stuck. When this turn happens in the narcissist, you see, you remember the idealization. And if you're in any way a conscientious, good partner, you're going to be thinking of all the things that you could do to improve the relationship and get it back to that dream of how it used to be. You actually think there's something that you can do to improve it or save it, because also the narcissist sort of feeds you with that kind of idea. that it's down to you and it's up to you, and the way that they are, their negative way of being, is because of you. The longer that the abuse dynamic goes on, the longer the narcissist continues abusing you and getting away with it, the harder it actually becomes to make an exit, because they're going to be getting larger and larger off of you, and they're going to be making you smaller and smaller and diminishing you and reducing you and sucking the life and power out of your generator. And what is your generator? This is what psychology doesn't go into. Some psychologists do call it a life force, but what is your life force? Where does your life force come from? Where does your energy come from? Some people don't think about it, or some people just think, well, we're born, we're living beings, so we have energy. But I think about this on a deeper level. I think about this on a more spiritual level, because I believe that your generator and what you're plugged into is a spiritual source. And I think that the narcissist doesn't have that same connection, because they cut it. And therefore they rely on the energy of others to feed and fuel them. And they're a parasite. They need a host. They're getting fat off of you because they don't have that connection themselves. And even though you are the one that's all powerful, they convince you of your subordinate position. And the abuse relies upon you accepting and believing in that lie. A man or woman, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether the narcissist is a man or woman either. That doesn't matter. They're extremely scary. They're massive bullies. They're exceptionally cruel. There's something about what narcissists do and narcissistic abuse that's reminiscent of that childhood bullying, if you've ever felt that. It cuts. It's very, very deep wounding. It leaves scars for life in adulthood. And there's something that narcissists do that not only regress you back to a childhood state, but reawakens and reactivates those wounds of being bullied, because narcissists bully, they intimidate, they humiliate. Plus you feel that really nasty internal rage. This negativity that's housed within narcissists is horrific. It's like seeing into the pits of hell. It's really scary. And honestly, you don't feel able to go against them the majority of the time because of the terror that they instill into you. And, that terror, like I've said before, it doesn't feel altogether them. You feel a sense that there's something more to this going on. I know it sounds crazy to many people, but if you've been with this kind of a narcissist, if you've been with a malignant narcissist, like I've said so many times, you feel like there's something housed within them that's on a supernatural level. And although the narcissist is the one sucking the power out of you, you may wonder if it is actually and totally the narcissist, or if there is a force behind them. And the energy of evil that comes out of the narcissist does not feel like it's part of this world. I think that many people feel like they've stumbled upon something that they never believed existed and found it in the most unlikely place. And then I think a whole spiritual dimension opens up that you find yourself slap bang in the middle of. And this is a large part of the shock also. The whole relationship is a real WTF. It's unimaginable. And pretty much, like I said, anybody can find themselves conned into this kind of relationship. And the longer you're in it, the more entrained, more brainwashed, and the more dismantled your reality and sense of self is going to be. So the more likely they're going to keep you. Because let's not forget, it's a con. Narcissists are con artists. They're hustlers. They hustle you into walking straight into your own doom. They know what they're doing, in my opinion. It's a hustle. Because the truth be known, they love supply, but they despise people. They despise you because they consider you to be beneath them and everybody else beneath them. So here's the problem, right? Because they need the supply from others, they're addicted to people that they believe are beneath them. They're addicted to people that they consider to be pathetic, losers, idiots. That must cause a great deal of internal conflict and rage. And covert narcissists are way more rageful and hateful than overt narcissists. They're much more dangerous. Covert narcissists are very clever with how they set up the traps to catch people. And unless you know the warning signs and red flags, you're not going to see it. You're not going to be immune to falling in the trap. And let's not forget the one vital ingredient that can really distort our judgment and that's sex and sexuality. When there's sex involved, it's even easier to be caught by a narcissist, man or woman. They've mastered the art of seduction. They come on strong and they move fast. And when they're very attractive too, and very seductive and charming, who is going to be able to resist? Tell me. When narcissists, they set their eyes on you as a target, they can be relentless in their pursuit. And of course, it can boost your ego and release a ton of chemicals. And it's really all of those chemicals which cloud our better judgment. And these chemicals are also highly addictive, and there's a very strong addictive level to narcissistic relationships. It's huge. And this is how the narcissist is controlling you. When they can pressure you to leap before you look, then they've got you. Once you're in the trap, like I said, it's incredibly hard to get out of, really. The only ones that get out sooner are the toxic ones that have been playing the narcissist too. But then they weren't really in the trap, were they? They were just faking to be in the trap and playing the narcissist at their own game. But for everyone else, once you're in that trap and you've swallowed the roofie, you're asleep. You're clueless. You have no idea what's happening. Your whole connection to reality will get shot to pieces. Nobody sees this coming, because nobody can believe that anybody would be this sick or cruel. It's unimaginable abuse because it's unimaginable. And also remember, when it's a female covert narcissist to a male victim, she will go even more under the radar, because the average man would not consider how much danger that he could be in with such a woman. And I've heard men saying to other men, oh, don't be ridiculous. It's just a woman. What harm can she do? What can she do to you? Now, I know any man out there that has danced with a demonic female covert narcissist or narcopath is going to be shaking his head to these kind of ignorant comments, because it doesn't matter. This is not about physical strength. This is about something else. This is mind control, emotional control. This is a violation of you. And this is also, in my opinion, an energetic hold. It has a spiritual dimension too. Just like it was highlighted in the comment of this video, even the most alpha of alpha males could get conned and dominated by a female narcissist. It doesn't make anyone less strong or less smart or less alpha. It just means that the narcissist is scarily dark and they're excellent liars, cheats, and deceivers. Not even a commander of thousands of Roman legions would be immune to the deception of a female covert narcissist. So I hope that this has been helpful. Let me know what you think by dropping me a comment below. For now, thank you all so much for watching. Take care, sending love, and I'll see you all again next